Pujya Swami Ji's Jayanti Day, we were prompted to dwell upon the messages given to us on various occasions, especially from 1990 onwards, roughly up to 2000. Every time we are reminded about the various aspects of sadhana. He pointed out where we are still lagging behind. He gave us hints and clues to make our sadhana more and more effective. You will all remember the questions he framed, 4 or 5. We should come back to once in a way. We have to keep on reminding ourselves so that we may be able to improve upon the areas where such improvements are absolutely necessary. So from today onwards, we will try to read some portion from Swami Ramdas on himself. Sometime in 1971 to 74, devotees were prompted and got it okay by Pujya Mataji to cull out certain portions from Papa's various teachings, and they brought out under the caption, those who will remember, Papa on himself. In 1994, again the prompting came that why not we bring all these snippets in the form of book, so that in whatever way Papa prompted, we have no idea. We must have been reading books, but still if we feel the aspiration is not ignited fully, we need so many other contributions, saying from the same source as Papa's teachings. So that is why the promptings come, letters are there, glimpses are there, the speaks Ramdas is there, sayings of Ramdas is there, so many. So like that, this attempt was also made, because the people who were compiling this, it was a sadhana and a wonderful journey for them. We all remember whenever we used to get vision, we used to go through that. Small, so it's not a big one. 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, that's all. Many of you might remember or might not remember old devotees, 71 to 74. So in 94, when we made an attempt, Pujya Swamiji okayed it, and it was gone through by senior devotees like USR Mama. And then finally, we still remember USR Mama was staying in there, Kanna Mama is there, staying now. So we barged in, and then he was going through. He also got enthused. Then went through, on those days there was no computer, so everything had to be typed out. So we were culling out from vision, and then it was very interesting. Because it is taken out from, there will be so many repetitions, so we had it out. So many repetitions will be there in the same book. So Swamiji said, let it be there. We all do the same thing. Every day we brush our teeth, every day we eat, every day we take bath. So repetition is there, for cleansing our equipment. So let it be there. One message, when it is read on a particular day, if the mind is not receptive, the same message can go through, become effective when it is read on another occasion. Then it was very nice. We still remember the dialogue. So with that background, we will start. Here it is mentioned, originally published. You will find it very interesting. So now we are moving toward the 27th December 2021, where we are reminded of the Sannyas centenary satsang of Param Pujya Papa. Lot of importance is there. First and foremost, I think we are here because of that. If Vittal Rao had continued to live as Vittal Rao, from the Vyavaharik level, we can say God decides everything. We would not be sitting here. So God caused Vittal Rao's life, that there should be a transition from the individual to a higher level. And God made necessary arrangements so that he will be freed from the so-called self-bound bondages from 1920 onwards, and it gained momentum. And in 2 years, God made him a Pakka instrument. And finally, to cap it all, he brought about the change in his life. So let us see what he says about that particular moment. The great change came over Ramdas in 1922 with his life of renunciation, not as a result of his own effort or initiative, but by the power, will and grace of God. Until this transformation came to him, he was living only an ordinary life. This does not mean, very important, so the preparatory measures are there, knowingly, unwittingly. It is not that you get an idea to become a sannyasi. No. This does not mean that he was selfish or inflicted any injury upon others or exploited others for his personal happiness. So even before the transition had taken place, the equipment was being made ready. Selfless, non-injury to anybody, and no exploitation of any type on anybody. All of you will remember that when God made him to pass through stressful moments, mounting liabilities on one side, future of the Sitaram, the name Sitaram Vittal Rao Company, something like that. That was the name of the institution which Papa had initiated. The running of the establishment, mounting of the liabilities on one side, the future of this establishment was bleak. At home, his wife was highly rheumatic. And then the whole picture, stressful means something many of us would have gone through similar, but not probably to this extent. And then when God prompted one friend to come forward and offered to help him financially by becoming a partner of this. When he says exploit, all these things come back to our mind. We did not say very good. He said don't invest. It is already a sinking ship. You will also lose your money. Even at that moment, when he was up to this, and somebody comes forward, he stuck to the truth. What he was experiencing, he shared. But God knew how to relieve him. So God made him to say, don't worry about it. That aspect you don't worry. And not only he cleared the liabilities, but also he invested more by going in for 40 more rooms in that establishment, and then told Papa then Vittal Rao to handle the technical side, production side. Rest of the thing, administration and finance, he would look at. So when he says, this does not mean that he was selfish or inflicted any injury or exploited others for his personal purposes. He was leading a 100% value-based life. So he gives us the clue. No? These are all the preparatory measures God wants us to. God will make us to develop that frame of mind so that he can take the leap. Facilitating him to take the leap. It was only that he was not aware that there was a great reality underlying this universal manifestation, and that by attaining that reality one could become supremely happy and peaceful, free from all anger, hate, bickering, which brought him in daily conflict with his fellow beings. He says, during his previous days, though he was, as much as possible, he was leading a selfless life, non-injury to anybody, not exploiting anybody for his personal purpose or any purpose. But what was missing was, he was not aware of the indwelling and all-pervading reality. And that got ignited. After he, according to what he wrote, after he had the darshan of Gandhiji at a distance, and later on when he started chanting God's name, Ram Ram. Something for all of us to again and again and again remember this, the background of this, the preparatory measures for the transition from Vittal Rao to Swami Ramdas. When this great change came, Ramdas was set off his feet, as it were. Everything. He did not know what was going to happen to him. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself. This is very important. Purpose of chanting his name, he was asked to repeat the name of God, so that he could go deep within himself, to feel the presence of the indwelling and all-pervading reality. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself, to find the truth on which his life was based. A wonderful clue for all sadhakas. So in his case, he was repeating the name for keeping the mind serene and calm, still. For what purpose? So that he could go deep down. Again, for what purpose? To know the real basis of his being, the support, the adhar, the substratum, the core of his being, the source of all sources. So he was very clear. He was very clear at the beginning. Right from the beginning he was clear. That is why the speed was, he could attain at such a short period. He did not know what was going to happen to him. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself, to find the truth on which his life was based. For that purpose, he was made to give up everything. All attachments to worldly life, worldly relations, worldly possessions, and he was taken from place to place in a state which was really wonderful. In that state he felt neither attraction nor repulsion for the world. So first he says, he was prompted to give up everything, worldly relations, worldly possessions, and then he was prompted to take an itinerant life where he was above all this. There was no attraction, there was no repulsion. That means slowly he was trying to accept everything as they are. Previously there was, something should be given up, something should be taken up. These are all the normal things. But very soon, that is why he was prompted to take the itinerant life. Now we can understand when he later addressed, when somebody asked, if God is everywhere, why did you take up this? Then he said, God whispered into Ramdas. You will find in Ramdas, talks of Swami Ramdas, God whispered into Ramdas' ears that you have been prompted to go out to tell everybody that there is no need for them to do the same thing. Initially, it is necessary, some withdrawal for a period, for intensifying our effort. And later on, we should reach a stage where we find equal, no repulsion, no attraction. The world had practically ceased to exist for him. His mind was merely an instrument in the hands of the divine, and he was being led by that power. His mind was merged in ineffable bliss and peace. Having experienced that supreme joy in this state, Ramdas was going about telling everybody that if they lived on the lower levels of life like animals, they could never get real happiness. They must transcend all these and go deep down within themselves. This is something very important. No? They must transcend all these, go deep down within themselves and realize the all-pervading eternal spirit which is pure bliss and peace. In this way, for nearly 4 years, Ramdas was wandering from place to place, and during his wanderings, he was made to remain for days together in caves or jungles, in order that he might get the fullness of spiritual experience, which is the aim and purpose of human life. We will again go through the same portion, because it is not to cover, we are going through. We have been prompted by him to apply our mind intensely, do intense manana. The first thing about the preparatory measures, how God, first of all, we cannot decide. God should make us, God should pour His grace on us. How do we know that He has poured His grace? We become more and more selfless. We don't injure. We cause no injury to any living creature as much as possible. We don't exploit anybody for any purpose. When these things are prompted by Him, then we come to know that we are being prepared. His grace is slowly getting revealed in us. That stage is not enough. We are not aware that it is His grace that is making us to become selfless, that is making us to become non-violent or not causing any injury upon any living creature, anybody, or not exploiting anybody. All we did not know that it was God's grace. So He says then, He was not aware of this. Then He was slowly made aware. God caused the external circumstances in such a way that he could not become one with the external life, though he was not very clear about the internal. The tussle went on for 2 years, and then because of the earnestness God gave him, because of the unbounded grace poured on him, he was able to steadfastly, effectively carry on with the sadhana. And he was also aware that chanting, he started chanting the name. Later on he will say, then somebody advised him that you should go to Siddhartha Mutt and get initiation of Shivanam. Because officially, the traditional form of mantra initiation he has not taken. And Papa said that Ramdas does not feel the need. Anyhow, this matter was placed before Siddhartha Mutt. Who placed it, we don't know. Then Swamiji Maharaj said, there is no need. Ramnam and Shivanam are equally powerful, and he is doing it as ordained by God. And later on he also added, he never felt to seek any guidance from outside. That means he was totally, first of all, intellectually convinced that when we entrust it to God who is within us, He will guide us, lead us, and take us to the Supreme. It is something, we have to keep on thinking about. It is not that as a sadhaka we all think, we should do this, we should do that, we should do this, we should do that. So Papa clarifies his position. We may develop our own thoughts, concepts, but Papa clarifies his position. That at no time he was relying on anything external. He was purely relying on him who is within. So the Nama chanting enabled him to go deep within and seek the guidance from within. If you again read, you may get some more. The great change came over Ramdas in 1922 with his life of renunciation, not as a result of his own effort or initiative, but by the power, will and grace of the Lord. Until this transformation came to him, he was living only an ordinary life. This does not mean that he was selfish or inflicted any injury upon others or exploited others for his personal happiness. It was only that he was not aware that there was a great reality underlying this universal manifestation, and that by attaining that reality, one could become supremely happy and peaceful, free from all anger, hate, bickerings, which brought him in daily conflict with his fellow beings. So he was going through the stressful period, anger, hate and bickering. He did not know. Though he was not causing injury to anybody, though he was selfless, he was not exploiting anybody for his personal benefit, he still was undergoing all these things. He was not aware that there is a higher dimension. When this great change came, Ramdas was swept off his feet. Everything was taken. He did not know what was going to happen to him. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, number one, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself to find the truth on which his life was based. That is why later on he said, in one of his talks, Papa on spirituality, some of you might have heard. It is there in I think it's in YouTube also, where he says how the heart works, how the digestion takes place, how the hair is growing, how the nail is growing, like that, no? He said there is a higher power. So this, how did he? That's why he said, to find the truth on which his life was based. So the life force, to know that God is the expressed form of the life force. He was blessed with that. So there was 100% clarity. It was not that superficially we do something and feel joyful for that particular period. No. This repetition of God's name was to get serene and calm and quiet, peaceful mind, number one. And number two, to go deep within to the core of his being, the life. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself, to find the truth on which his life was based. For that purpose, he was made to give up everything. He was made, The prompting comes from within, not by anybody. For that purpose, he was made to give up everything. All attachments to worldly life, worldly relations, worldly possessions. And he was taken from place to place in a state which was really wonderful. In that state, he felt neither attraction nor repulsion for the world. Everything was quick, First receding from the normal, common run of life, routine bondages, routine challenges, routine duties, routine responsibilities. And then, this is not the end, as if God is telling. So he must be able to go beyond the attractions and repulsions. Absolutely, there is a word called udasina. Indifferent, positively indifferent, not negatively indifferent, positively indifferent, remaining unattached, unruffled, unaffected by anything. The world had practically ceased to exist for him. The world as world, as an object, as something we are seeing, we are hearing, we are observing. No. The world had practically ceased to exist. His mind was merely an instrument in the hands of the divine, and he was being led by that power. His mind was merely an instrument in the hands of the divine. The sense of individuality had completely been erased. So when we chant Ram Nam, this should be clear to us. Purpose is to remove this me and mine and hand over the equipment called the mind to him, knowing fully that it is he who is behind that mind, and he was being led by that power. His mind was merged in ineffable peace and bliss. Having experienced the supreme joy in this state, Ramdas was going about telling everybody that if they lived on the lower levels of life like animals, they could never get real happiness. Based purely on impulses and instincts, we act. We don't have any idea about the higher level. They must transcend all these and go deep down within themselves and realize the all-pervading eternal spirit, which is pure bliss and peace. So after having experienced this, Papa was made to go and share that if we live at the lower level, we may get some fleeting joys, but that will not be everlasting. So we have been asked, so we should go deep down within ourselves and realize the presence of the all-pervading spirit, which is pure bliss and peace. In this way, for nearly 4 years, Ramdas was wandering from place to place, and during his wanderings, he was made to remain for days together in caves and jungles in order that he might get the fullness of spiritual experience, which is the aim and purpose of human life. So we can say in quest of God and in the vision of God. So taking from Papa's Q 23 to plus 4, that means by 27, from 1923 to 1927 roughly. And then he was in Kasaragod, a small kutia, where he was asked to go and, or God made his brother to say, request him to stay there instead of wandering, That was also taken as Ram's will. And there Pujya Mataji joined in 28, and rest of the things are part of history, how they had to leave in 30 or 30 end or 31, 31st, early in 31, and how they were led to Kanyangarh, Maungai, Ramnagar, and then how this ashram came in 31. So just in 1920 to this 31, 11 years. If we go deeper and deeper into it, so the 20 to 22 preparatory measures, 22 he was made to take the leap, and for 4 years he was trying to explain this to everybody. Then God made him to come and stay in a particular place where he has got a bigger role of setting up this ashram. So then Mataji had to join. She is the real Shakti behind it. And then Mataji joined, and then God brought about circumstances in such a way that they could no longer stay in Kasaragod, and they were taken to Kanyangarh, especially to this place where the present ashram, everything was, that land was gifted by somebody there. And that is how in 1931 this ashram came into being. And we are all enjoying the benefits. And suppose we go back to that page from 31 to, for the next 10 years, he was not going out, For some years he was not going out. And finally when one letter came, call of the devotee, you will see that. Mataji recommended that Papa should go, accede to the request. And when that was read out, Papa had expressed in later vein that he was probably churning the curd in the morning. So he was relieved of this, went straight away with whatever he had to the railway station, got into the train to Bombay. And then again, every now and then, God made him to move about, and finally to the global level also. So we should know this, So the foundation we should keep on thinking. Rest of the things are, of course, there as part of history. But as an aspirant, as a sadhaka, we should know the preparatory measures. So we take it that we have to lead if one leads a value-based life, we should know God has blessed us. A contented life, a selfless life to the extent possible, non-injury, that is very important, not exploiting anybody, that is also very important, and slowly trying to feel the power who is behind all these values. And then God, when God finds, then to go deeper and deeper. He was also made very clear by God The chanting of God's name should enable him to keep the mind in serene stature, calm and serene, and then so that he will be able to go deep down and first feel the nearness from his, later on he has written this, first nearness, then his presence, then he is there in everybody, that vision, and finally to become one with him. And then he was motivated to take the leap. So initially he had to withdraw himself from everything, give up everything, renounce everything. And later on, when he started moving with the world outside, he did not prefer any place where there is total detachment or whatever you call it, renunciation. He was moving with everybody, all householders. He was also moving with sadhus. He was also staying in ashram. But he specifically said Ramdas had no intention of staying in any ashram for a longer time, not under the umbrella of any spiritual institution. He was very clear about that. So from here it is very clear that unless and until we are very clear about the objective, we are only hearing it or we have been asked to do. Later on he will say that no, don't be like a dumb-driven cattle. Bring out in your own way. So pray to God within to show your own way, Swadharma. Just he was blunt enough to say, even if what Ramdas says, don't follow it if you don't get a green signal from inside. Because he wanted every one of us to blossom, to flower in our own way. Then only, because that is what he did. He was not looking upon any external factors. He was only trying to go deep within himself, and when he went inside, the entity that was trying to go inside became nil, became a non-entity, and so the equipment actually became an instrument in God's hand. So this one particular page, suppose if we keep on thinking, and then trying to compare the sadhana which we have been doing, then we will know where are the areas where we have to improve. So let us all pray to him who has prompted us to go through these portions again and again and again, to somehow lead us and guide us to the ultimate goal of feeling his nearness, his presence, his vision, his the vision of his divinity in everybody, and to finally become one with himself. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Hari Om.